winning does breed winning on a lot of occasions, but it's equally about legacy. I've just sat here and watched the Olympics, and I know there's been a bit of bad press around it, but
Terry loves it,
And I do like the Olympics, but you see, it's legend. It's winning trophies is where legends are made. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. Now, not everything has to be in trophy context. Everything short term, anyway, because someone said to me yesterday, "Oh, have you noticed Haaland doesn't score at Wembley? He doesn't score in finals or in showpieces?" Yeah, it's a fair criticism, but he will. He probably will at some point. You can't. You can. It's, right now, it's like a smudge on the ledger for him, but he's probably going to score in a Wembley game at some point and a final in his career, and then that kind of puts that one to bed as an example. Where it does become an issue, not an issue per se, is maybe he only ever scores in one, and then you're having a debate on where he sits in the legendary category and how he performed in finals and the trophies that he won. All these things comes into it. So I do think that's why the trophy element is key, because if Arsenal had picked up another FA Cup and a League Cup in the last couple of years, these players are building up a CV, a legacy of, and I look at a lot of United players. I look at like the Bruno. I look at like Rashford as an example at Man United. 2 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, a European Cup. If he could go and add, and I'm not saying it will happen, a Premier League and a Champions League to that, suddenly you're talking about a very serious CV in terms of what you have directly helped contribute towards a club winning. But then suddenly, if someone like Rashford was then start adding some big trophies to it, you look at it and go, all those smaller trophies that sometimes got disregarded by rivals suddenly don't look so bad in your career. And I think that's one thing Arsenal have got to do, is start adding those smaller trophies, because it may not even be this season, but maybe next year you win a Champions League. Maybe the year after you're back-to-back Premier Leagues. Suddenly then, though, it isn't just a Premier League or two and a Champions League. It's FA Cups, League Cups. And I think that's where Klopp went wrong. Klopp started to add those domestic trophies in his last couple of years. I felt he should have focused more in the first. He's a great legacy. Champions League winner, Premier League winner. 2, if we're going to start saying the FA Cup isn't major, I don't like doing that, but a lot of people do. He won 2 major trophies in the best part of a decade. He won 2 League Cups. He won an FA Cup as well. I know he won the World Cup Championship.
We gave him 70% of his trophies, bro. Chelsea,
but yeah, and again, I'm not taking anything away from Klopp. I think that he is absolutely, genuinely, I think he's an absolutely amazing manager. But if he would have focused in the first 5 or 6 years more on those domestic trophies, he could have walked away Premier League, Champions League, 2 FA Cups, 3 League Cups. So, maybe a Europa League in there. And the more trophies you win, the bigger your legacy at the end of the day. So I do think these things will play a part. However, listening to your debate, gents, is really interesting, because I don't think either of you slagged off the other one's club. I don't actually think Giuseppe was saying that Chelsea are not attractive. He's just saying that right now, if we both go in, offer him 200 grand a week on a 5-6 year deal, you both got really good players, but Arsenal probably right now, if you're a betting person right now, Arsenal winning a trophy in the next 4 or 5 years, a major trophy in the next 4 or 5 years, seems more likely. But what's mad with football is that whole ethos can change by the end of next season. If Maresca gets you guys to click and you're not leaking goals and you're playing well and it's sustainable football, maybe Arsenal don't win a major trophy again this year, then the world can change that quickly. Because when Arsenal signed Declan Rice last summer, if you rewound 12 months, nobody thought Arsenal. If you'd have said Arsenal could get him, everyone would have laughed at you. He's going Chelsea because Chelsea are European champions. Or he goes City.
Fan base, Terry. When the whole thing came out, the rumors about Man City preparing a bid, most of their fan base were like, "Fuck, that's it, man. We've lost Rice. Edu's done it again." Most of them were shocked when Edu came back with the big boy 105 million bid, because that's something that we don't see Arsenal doing. You know what I'm trying to say? So listen, like I've said, for me, all you got to do is sit Osimhen down, show him that final against Liverpool, show him that semi-final against Man City. With Osimhen, we walk away with 2 trophies, and we were in the mud for majority of that year, bro. In the mud, easiest selling point for this guy. Everyone knows last season, everyone kept saying it, bro, including Chelsea fans. We need a striker. You know what I'm trying to say? We need a striker, bro. And Osimhen will help with that, bro.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's going to be a real interesting. Which would you prefer, Giuseppe? Osimhen or Gyökeres, or would you prefer an inside forward like a Sane, an Adeyemi, a Bakayoko? Which would you personally prefer?
I'd like both, like as in a wing, sign anything. But if I had to choose one, I'll be honest. I'll stick with what I've been saying. I'd take Gyökeres. Yeah, I think I know there's risk in it, and he hasn't done. I just think that from a lot of stuff I've spoke to people, I've got half my missus family is Portuguese, a stepdad and stuff. And I've spoken. They're very diehard Benfica fans and that, and they watch a lot of the league. Everything I've heard about him and researched about him and watched about him, he'd suit Arsenal to a T. Yes, obviously there's going to be risk, and there's always a lot of that Darwin Núñez talk of he smashed it out there and stuff. But I think I'd go for Gyökeres. If I had the choice, I'd sign Gyökeres.
How much of him have you actually watched, though, man? I feel like. Listen, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just feel like this is a bit of a sexy name at the minute. You know what I'm saying?
I've watched a lot. I've watched like full matches of him. Not a lot. A couple, but I've done deep. Like when I research about him. By the way, when I research about a player, yeah, I don't only because when Arsenal were linked to players, I research more about them. It's just what I do. Every fan does it, but I don't just watch highlights because highlight reels are fake. Yeah, sometimes
you just show you the best bits.
The best bits. What I go and do is I go and watch what other players and other managers and stuff say about him, say about the person and stuff. I read articles that people write on the player because that's normally where you get a bit more of the truth and stuff about him. And I just think he seems to have a really good attitude. He's a striker. He's really fast. He's big and fast. Like people don't realize how fast he is. And he's also he's a selfish striker that also gets everyone else involved. If you actually look at his stats, not only last season, but the season for Coventry, double-digit assists as well as goals. You know, this guy also, and that, for me, is perfect for what Arsenal need. Because I don't think Arsenal necessarily need an Erling Haaland type striker in the sense of he just puts the ball in the back of the net and that's all he does. Yes, of course, Haaland does it on an extreme level. You ain't finding another guy right now that does it on that level, to be honest, guaranteed. So I think that for us, he would be he'd be perfect, but I could be wrong. I'm not a scout. Arsenal are the scouts. That's why I'll be on board with whatever Edu and Arteta choose the striker to be. I'll agree with them and think that is the right striker for Arsenal because I think they've done enough for me to give them my faith in the choice they'd make on the striker.
Yeah, it's such a hard one. My heart says Osimhen. My head says Osimhen. I think there's a player in there. I think he gets a lot of disrespect. I think he's a lot better than people make him out to be. But this is one of those good debates because you're picking between two very good footballers. You're not picking between. It's not one really good, one is really bad. I think they're both. Someone said it an Arsenal fan said it on the show earlier, and then somebody else super chatted and disagreed with him and just sort of said, "I don't want a poacher. I want someone that can play football." The next guy said, "We need a poacher." I don't think poachers even exist now. When I think of a poacher, I think someone that's very limited as an overall footballer but scores goals. I wouldn't say that Victor Osimhen is messy on the ball. But I don't think he's as bad as Lukaku in possession, personally. I think he's good. He's good. I wouldn't say he's world class on the ball, but he's good to very good. But yeah, he can play football.
His link-up play is actually better than what I initially thought. Because I was like, let me go back and actually watch more of his games back, yeah. And he tries to do a lot of flicks. He does a lot of flicks around the corner. He does a lot of unorthodox things, and it works at times, you know. People talk about him as if he gets the ball and it's Omarodian. It's not like that. He can actually hold his own on the ball. He can hold his own on the ball, you know. So yeah, I think it'll be a good signing. I was never for the money, you know, the 150 million they were asking for, but I was consistent with that. So listen, if you want the player, you've got to pay up at times. It is where it is.
I agree. And by the way, Ruud van Nistelrooy wasn't just a poacher. He was very good on the ball. He was very good technically on the ball. He was very. Listen, he was from an era of Dutch players where they all could play football to a very high degree. You weren't, you know, when I'm thinking of poacher, I'm thinking of someone like
you're thinking of Kevin Davis, bro.
Yeah. I tell you, like Michael Owen for me had speed and was a goal poacher. Like his hold up play and everything else was okay, but he was a goal poacher. and a one-on-one specialist. Like that's what I sort of looked at him as. Ian Wright was brilliant with one-on-ones, always in the right place at the right time, like a bit of a poacher, like a fox in the box, or whatever expression you want to use. Inzaghi was one, absolutely.
That guy could never be offside, I swear to God.
Javier Hernandez, exactly. Chicharito.
Exactly. Nah, he had more to his game. He had more to his game than that.
He was open.
Him and Aguero, yeah. Every single time we played United City, always bag against us, bro.
Yeah, he was. I went to a series of games away at Stamford Bridge over like a 3-year period, and he scored in all of them. He was great, he was okay technically. I take a great example, Raul. Again, good on the ball, but the man was a poacher. But they don't really exist anymore like that. But yeah, look, whichever one Arsenal get, it's going to be amazing. And listen, it's funny because I saw Henry Wright getting a lot of shit earlier today on Twitter. Lee Gunner calling him out. Because Henry Wright's done a video saying that he thinks Arsenal are going to win the league. And I listened to it, and he did caveat it. But, if City go out and sign some stars between now and the end of the window, or if Arsenal don't get Moreno and don't get a striker, his mind may change. But I happen to agree with him to a certain point. If Arsenal do bring in Moreno and, say, Gyökeres or Osimhen, and City do nothing else, Arsenal become my absolute, by a hair's breadth, favourites to win it. And I'm talking pipping them to the post. And the other thing...